Welcome to the name game. Workout number 105 is Crooked Smile. For time, 30 back rack walking lunge steps, 135-95, 10 bar muscle ups, 30 front rack walking lunge steps, 135-95, 10 bar muscle ups, 30 overhead walking lunge steps, 135-95, and 10 bar muscle ups. The prescribed scale for bar muscle ups is a 1-to-1 substitution for burpee pull-ups.
And we're off, starting with 30 back rack lunges. We are going to mandate that you do 10 steps in one direction, and then you turn around and come back. So you can break whenever you want. There's no mandate in terms of holding on to that bar, but making sure you turn around every 10 steps.
Yeah, this way there's no advantage. If you got one of those extra long gyms, you get to just like walk around. We're gonna try to make sure everyone gets a similar workout.
Yep. And yeah, I mean, that's what we've seen. I mean, 30 or 10 steps plus a turnaround takes about 30 feet, which is what they've been saying in the floor plans for quarters for the most part. So we'll kind of stick with their lead on a lot of this kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So these first 30 unbroken, just because back rack is kind of a convenient place to hold that and try to stay relaxed. I kind of like tried to keep my upper back and arms as relaxed as I could, like going out to fingertips. And then at a pretty methodical pace, that only took me like a minute. So big picture, how would you think about strategizing in terms of like pacing for different people?
Yeah, so I mean, I think the first 30 lunges has to be unbroken. I mean, I guess it doesn't have to be, but if the weight is relatively light and it's the front end of the workout, your chest is open in a back rack, so you shouldn't have any real diaphragm compression. It's just, keep moving. And then from there, you get into your bar muscle ups, and the question is, across the board for 30 reps, what would be a good rep scheme that I could hold? Especially being that once you get to the front rack, like Ben is here, you're going to get some tax on your breathing as well as your shoulders because of holding the bar in the front rack and then holding the bar overhead. So you're not going to want to hold a set on your first set that's going to become, totally unreasonable on the last set. All in all, though, this can be a pretty quick workout if you are good at bar muscle ups, and so finding a rep scheme that is going to allow you to push there as well will be good.
Yep. Yeah, and for the front rack, it's like the easiest one to break in my opinion, because like the clean is pretty easy to get up into, versus like an overhead. You have to do a clean and a jerk to get there, and like the back rack is sort of like the same equivalent. Like obviously you don't kind of stand it up all the way, but I think for most people breaking the front rack, I mean, probably just in the sets of 10 and then just kind of like taking the time that you need to before each turnaround. Unless like that's a relatively heavy barbell compared to what you're used to. And then maybe if it's that heavy relative to what you're used to, maybe consider scaling the weight.
Yeah, absolutely. And if it's a weight that's pretty easy for you, I would still take the same approach that you did here, just because the transition time between dropping it, second bar, cleaning it back up, relatively the same as physically turning the barbell around. You know what I mean? So it's probably best that each 10 steps, drop the bar, step over, and if it's easy for you, literally just step over, clean it, and get going again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's also true. There is definitely a time and a tax to turning the bar and then stopping it again with your core each time. The very first set, which is you're going to see here in a second, of when I do the overhead lunges, I bring it to my back rack, turn the bar around, and then like push press it from behind the neck back overhead. And I was like, that was not worth it. So the next time I just dropped it, because bringing it back down, turning it, and then going again is like, that was just as like costly as me doing like a clean and jerk into my first rep.
Right. And it's one of those things where even on that one, if you're turning it overhead, you have the torque through your core to resist the bar from continuing to turn, but plus the torque in your upper body. And so you'd have to be super strong and good at bar muscle ups, right? For for that
Yeah,
to be your
just
choice.
keeping it overhead and
there.
turning. That would be a whole new level. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And especially because for someone like you, Ben, like a 135 power snatch is nothing. So it's like just drop it, step over, power snatch back up, and get it moving, and you're gonna gain or lose time in how much you lollygag there.
And one thing that I want to mention here before we finish these out is that, like, we've talked about this before, but I would probably, for most people, unless you got like really tight shoulders, trying to pick a maybe not quite jerk grip, but certainly not as wide as like a traditional snatch grip. And that way it puts a little bit less pressure on your wrists.
Yeah.
And also when you're out in that snatch grip, you have to like really hold onto the bar with your grip because your hands are almost want to slide apart. Whereas like in a more stacked position, sort of like I am here, it allows you to kind of have a little bit less tension through your wrists.
Yeah, and kind of it's easier to stay stacked through your shoulders there and kind of find that slot where the bar just sits versus fighting it with your hands out wide. And this should be easier to do with a I'll call it a narrowish grip than like an overhead squat, right? Because just that single leg nature, you don't need as much hip flexion, you don't need as much ankle flexion as you would in a true overhead squat. So even if you're someone who's relatively tight in your lower half, like you could be able to do that type of grip versus what you do in your overhead squat.
And then it just comes down to how much you got to break on the bar muscle ups. And I was pretty pleasantly surprised on how these felt. It like, luckily, like I'm pretty good at lunge. To be honest, this is a really good combo for me. Like I enjoy testing this workout because I'm good at both these movements. But if you're someone who like lunging isn't your strong suit or hanging gymnastics isn't your thing, obviously you need to kind of be a lot more patient in how you, respect the workout a little bit more, I guess.
Yeah, 100%.
Finishing out here. I would say big picture. You just got to kind of know yourself and your capacity on these and stick with your game plan.
Alrighty, folks, it's that time. Be sure to submit your scores to the leaderboard at zorfitness.com/TNG. You're more than welcome to share this and take it on with some friends, and best of luck on the workout.